Jacob's foot. Tonight the message is going to be, is there a prophecy in Ruth? And we're going to do a Bible study on the book of Ruth. Ruth is only 4 chapters, but I decided rather than preaching a message that what we would do, I'm going to show you how I study the Bible. And I need all your help to help me. Okay? So we're going to read little by little, and as we read, we're going to comment. If you have a question, raise your hand. Okay? And because this is supposed to be interactive. It's not about me teaching. It's about getting to understand what I'm doing. I want you to understand how I studied the Bible. Okay? So that's what this is about. Now, I'm going to read the book of Ruth from King James. I like King James for one reason. That reason is it's difficult to understand. And because it's difficult to understand that language, it causes me to look things up. And when I look things up, I start getting more revelation. If the Bible you're reading is very simple and everything is just really easy to understand, you will miss 99% of what the Bible has to say. Because you're only going to get what's called the low-hanging fruit. Because you think you understand what it means. You'll never go deeper. So that's why I like King James. I use other versions. And so just bear that in mind. I'm going to begin Ruth chapter 1, verse 1. Now, what we're going to do is every time we hit a name, I want you to write the name. Okay? And there's going to be like 6 of them. So make room up there. Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land. And a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to live in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. And the name of the man was Elimelech, E-L-I-M. E-L-C-H. Yeah, E-L-E-C-H, excuse me. And the name of his wife was Naomi. Let's go down. Naomi. And the name of his 2 sons were Mahlon, M-A-H-L-O-N. And I think the way you pronounce this is Chilion, but it's C-H-I-L-I-O-N. They were Ephrathites. They were of the tribe of Ephraim, of Bethlehem in Judah. And they came into the country of Moab and continued there. Now, make it separate. Put Judah and Moab. And Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. And they took them wives of women of Moab. The name of the first one was Orpah. Nope, doesn't go there. Under the names. Orpah. O-R-P-A-H. Orpah. And the name of the other was Ruth. And Mahlon and Chilion died, and also both of them, and the woman was left of her 2 sons and her husband. And she arose with her daughters-in-law, and that she might return unto the country. She might return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab now that the Lord had visited his people in Judah and given them bread. Wherefore she went forth out of the place where she was with her 2 daughters-in-law with her, they went on their way to return unto the land of Judah. And Naomi said unto her 2 daughters-in-law, Go, turn each to her mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant you that he may find rest each of you in the house of your new husband. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voice and wept. They said unto her, Surely we will return with thee unto thy people. And Naomi said, Turn again, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Are there yet any more sons in my womb, that they may be your husbands? Turn again, my daughters, go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, if I should have a husband also tonight, and should also bear sons, would you tarry for them till they are full grown? Would you stay for them? Would you stay from having husbands? Nay, my daughters, for it grieveth me much for your sakes that the hand of the Lord is gone out against me. And they lifted up their voice and wept, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, and Ruth clung to her. And she said, Behold, thy sister-in-law is gone back unto her people and unto her gods. Return now after your sister-in-law. Now this is the next verse. Verses are one of the strongest statements of faith you'll ever hear in the Bible. Every time I read this, it almost brings tears. And Ruth said, Entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go. Where thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God my God. Where thou diest, will I die. There will I be buried. The Lord do so to me and more also, if aught but death should part us. When she saw that she was steadfastly minded to go with her, she left speaking unto her. So they too went until they came to Bethlehem. And it came to pass, when they came to Bethlehem, all the city was moved about them. They said unto, Is this Naomi? And she said unto them, Call me not Naomi, call me Mara. Right, Mara next to Naomi, or right under Naomi. M-A-R-A. Yeah, Mara. For the Almighty hath dealt bitterly with me. I went out full, and the Lord hath brought me home again empty. Why then call ye me Naomi, seeing the Lord hath testified against me, and the Almighty has afflicted me? So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, with her, which returned out of the country of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem in the beginning of the barley harvest. Now over here write barley, and here write wheat. Okay, we're going to stop right here a moment. We've got all the names that all except one. There's one more name out of this whole thing, Boaz. And write Boaz under the bottom of Ruth. B-O-A-Z. Now, I don't know about you, but I have my text also has links to the Hebrew and Greek. Okay? So I can look up the meanings of names just by clicking a button. Whenever you see all these names, it's important to know what the names mean. The names mean something. Okay? So I make a list, and I go and I look up. So what does Elimelech mean? Anybody have an idea? It means my God is king. Or God is my king. God is my king. Well, because this is a name, is such a strong name, right? Not like Fred or Bob or whatever, It's his name means God is my king. So there's a message here. Okay? That's really the first key to this whole thing being somewhat prophetic is you start out with a gentleman whose name is my God is king or God is my king. You have to understand that is a clue right off that this whole thing is prophetic. It actually happened, but it's trying to give us a message. Okay? Just because of the name, that's giving you a clue. The name Naomi, let me go back here and I'll click on it. I know what it means, but I'm going to click on it anyways. It means pleasant or my delight. Pleasant or my delight. I pray everybody can see this because you couldn't see it if I wrote it. It would all be scribbles. So, yeah. Now, here we get really interesting. So we got a strong people. We got Elimelech and Naomi who are married. They have 2 sons. Why in the world they named their sons this, I have no idea. Machlon or Mahlon or however you want to pronounce it means thick. S-I-C-K. Kilion means pining or destruction. To pine for something, to yearn for something. If you pine for something, you want it to happen. The wish, pining. There's no E. P-I-N-I-N. Okay. So, and destruction. Yeah. It depends who you're looking at and how they translate it in a couple of different things. And destruction. And why would anybody name their this? I have no idea. No wonder they died. They cursed their kids from the beginning. Okay. Now let's go down and look at their wives. Orpah, gazelle. Gazelle. And Ruth, one second here to find it. Yeah, here we are. Friend. And while I'm at it, let me look up Boaz just so we can get it out of the way. Oops, wrong one. Sweetness. Fast Eddie. Fleetness, not sweetness. Fleet. Fast. F-L-E. Not sweet. Fat. Fleet. Just, yeah. Yeah. Fleetness. F-L-E-E-T. So, this is really interesting. When you look at the names that we have up here, it's giving us a picture. Again, this really points to this as prophetic. Because you have these drastic names. Why is it? You're starting to get the picture. But just by reading the story, you don't get that unless you understand what the names mean. It's really important. Okay. Now, the other thing we need to look at is there was a famine in Judah. So this godly man and his wife go to Moab. And if you remember, approximately 100 years before, the Israelites were coming to the west side of the Jordan. They were there, and the king of Moab hires Balaam to come and curse the Israelites. And that's where the angel of the Lord stands in the way, and the donkey talks to Balaam and all that. But because of that, there was a curse on Moab, because they tried to curse Israel. So here we have a picture of something. Here we have a man of God coming from the chosen land to a cursed land. Somebody has fallen grace. Provision is no longer here. Okay? So he goes over here to dwell, and he breaks the violation of the law, which says you are not to marry foreign women, which his two sons did. Can it get any worse than this? Okay? I'm trying to point out extra things here, just so you know what's going on. And it happens, he returns at the beginning of barley harvest. We'll get to that, barley and wheat, in a bit. Let's go to chapter 2. And you can take a break for a second. And Naomi had a kinsman. Whoops. I'm sorry, write kinsman down here. Yeah, kinsman. Yes. What's your question? Well, the chosen land was Judah. That was one of the tribes of Israel. Moab was one of the tribes that's on the west side of the Jordan, or the east side of the Jordan. Elimelech, it started in Bethlehem. Not just in Judah, but in Bethlehem. Okay? Yes. He goes to the foreign land, a cursed land. He leaves one of the 12 tribes, God's land, and goes outside of his blessing and goes here. I don't know what God. He was hungry. There's no food. There was a famine in the land. Okay? So he went out of here, he left here, and went to Moab. Okay? Just feel, yes. I don't know. There isn't written that there are others, but there probably were. Let's read chapter 2. And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband, a mighty man of wealth of the family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabitess said unto Naomi, let me now go to the field and glean. Mine says ears of corn, but it's really grains of barley, after him in whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, go, my daughter. And she went and came and gleaned in the field after the reapers, and her happenstance was to light on a part of the field belonging unto Boaz, who was the kinsman of Elimelech. And behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem, and said unto the reapers, the Lord be with you. And they answered him, the Lord bless thee. Then said Boaz unto the servant that was set over the reapers, whose damsel is this? The servant that was set over the reapers answered and said, it is the Moabitish damsel that came back with Naomi out of the country of Moab. And she said, I pray you, let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves. So she came and had continued even from the morning until now, that she tarried a little in the house, which was a way of saying she took a break. They had a hut set up that she could take a break out of the sun and get water. That's really what that means. Then said Boaz unto Ruth, hearest thou not, my daughter? Or what he's really saying, hear me, hear what I'm saying. Pay attention. As soon as I find where I was. Yes, there we are. Go not to glean in another field, neither go from hence, but abide here fast by my maiden. Let thine eyes be on the field that they do reap, and go thou after them. Have I not charged young men that they shall not touch thee? When thou art athirst, go unto the vessels, and drink of that which the young men have drawn. And she fell down on her face, and bowed herself to the ground, and said unto him, Why have I found grace in thine eyes, that thou should take knowledge of me, seeing I am a stranger? And Boaz answered and said unto her, It hath fully been shown me that all thou hast done unto thy mother-in-law since the death of thy husband, and thou hast left thy father and thy mother and the land of thy nativity, and art come unto a people which thou knowest thou not. And the Lord recompense thee, or bless thy work, and give a full reward be given thee of the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings thou art come to trust. Then she said, Let me find favor in thy sight, my Lord, for that thou hast comforted me, and for thou hast spoken friendly unto thy handmaiden, though I be not like one of thy handmaidens. And Boaz said unto her, At mealtime come thou and eat of the bread, and dip thy morsel in the vinegar. And she came and sat beside the reapers. And he reached and gave her some roasted grain. And she did eat, and was full, and left. And when she was risen up to glean, Boaz commanded his young man, saying, Let her glean even among the sheaves, and reproach her not. And let fall also some of the handfuls of purpose for her, and leave them that she may glean them, and rebuke her not. So she gleaned in the field until evening, and beat out that which was gleaned, and it was about an ephah, or about 30 pounds of barley. And she took it up and went into the city, and her mother-in-law saw that she had gleaned, and she brought forth and gave to her what she had reserved after she had eaten. And her mother-in-law said unto her, Where were you gleaning today, and where did you work? Under who did you work? Blessed be he that did take knowledge of thee. And she showed her mother-in-law whom she had worked under, and said, The man's name with whom I worked today was Boaz. And Naomi said unto her daughter-in-law, Blessed be he of the Lord, who hath not left off his kindness to the living and to the dead. And Naomi said unto her, The man is near of kin unto us, one of our near kinsmen. And Ruth the Moabitess said, He said unto me also, Thou shalt keep fast by my young men until they have ended all thy harvest. And Naomi said unto Ruth her daughter-in-law, It is good, my daughter, that thou go out with his maidens, that they meet thee not in any other field. So she kept fast by the maidens of Boaz, glean into the end of the barley harvest and of the wheat harvest, and dwelt with her mother-in-law. Okay. Several things. Ruth is not ugly. Okay. Now, here's an important thing. Now, you won't get this out of here, but I'm going to tell you a few things. There's another message coming in here, but we'll get to that later. So, Ruth and Orpah are what? They could be anywhere from 25 to 40. Okay? That's probably their age, because they were married for 10 years in Moab. Doesn't it say that? We're married for 10 years. So they're anywhere from 25 to 40 when by this time. And notice that Orpah, the speedy one, said, I'm out of here. Right? She's gone. And she stayed in Moab. When they were leaving, she didn't really leave with them. She said, okay, I'm going back. And notice that Naomi said, go back to your family and your God. Now, the point here is that in order for them to marry these two guys who were Hebrews, had to have converted or pretend to convert. Okay? Now, evidently, Ruth probably may have had a bad family. We don't know. She said, wherever I'm going, it's 10,000 times better with you than going back there. I cannot go back there. And the fact that Ruth also knew the name of the Lord, because when it says Lord, it's in caps. And Ruth speaks his name. How did Ruth know the name of the Lord? Okay? Unless he had come into a relationship with him. Okay? And decided, this is so much better than where I was. And not only if he's your God, I want to be part of your people. Okay? Plus, they all know the stories. It was less than 100 years after Israel, or the Hebrews, crossed the river, defeated all of Palestine. Okay? This is less than 100 years since that started. So it's still fresh there. Okay? You have to understand this. But Ruth is probably, anyway, let's say she's 35, just to begin with. Well, Boaz is an older, wealthy man. It's estimated his time at this meeting was anywhere between 60 and 80. And I'll explain why in a minute. Okay? But, so we have this, and now we get a problem. Because how many of you know the law in Leviticus about kinsmen? The kinsman redeemer. Do you know it's written in Leviticus what the law is for them? Well, yes, the question of the response was the land had to stay in the family. Yes, but it goes more than that. The kinsman redeemer law says that if a woman is left a widow, the land can be sold to a redeemer, a next of kin, the closest next of kin who is financially able and willing. Those are the two keys. Financially able and willing. He can buy the land from her, but also he becomes her guardian for the rest of her life. Kinsman redeemer. She goes with the land. You understand? Now, the second part of that is if a woman, her husband dies, and she has no children, the kinsman redeemer who buys her land must also marry her. Because they have to bring up an offspring to put a name over the land that he's trying to sell. Don't forget that at the end of 50 years, the land has to revert back. You believe the land has to, if there's nobody to return back, that's why they want to continue the line, the ownership. The land is so important here. And what most people don't understand in studying the Bible, the land is almost more important than the people in a lot of cases. Everything is about ownership of the land. So much in the Bible, and you have to read it that way. Not that people don't matter, but still, everything was around to keep the land in Israel and into the people, that they not barter it away or trade it away or get rid of it. Keep the land, whatever you do. If you don't own your land, you will be owned. In other words, yes. Well, they left it. It's still theirs. She didn't have to buy it. She had to sell it because she has no way to make a living. Yeah, she's destitute without the land. She comes back and says, okay, I got this land, but I need somebody to buy it so I can live. And I need someone to take care of me. The law says there is a kinsman redeemer that has to fill that process. If he doesn't fill it, then all she has is the land to sell. And that's for Naomi. But Ruth, her husband, since he died, the land should go to the children, the two males. But they're dead. So it can't go there. So now Ruth is hung out to dry. And because she has, though, the portion of the land belonging to Mahlon, who would have inherited from her husband, Elimelech. You see this. Okay, but because she has no children, she cannot raise up a kinsman redeemer for herself without a child. Someone to take care of her in her old age. So that's the reason that the first next of kin has the option. If it doesn't, the first next of kin doesn't take it, it falls to the next of kin, to the next, until there is none. Yes, question. No, Naomi had to go back. She went. If Ruth didn't go back, then all of the land would have been in Naomi's name. Okay? Because if they would have stayed, they would have given up their right for the land. Because the land only came to Jews, Hebrews, or those that had converted. And if she rejected her marriage, she would have rejected the land, like Orpah did. Orpah rejected the land, decided to go back, but Ruth says, no, I'm going. I want what God has for me. I want this God. It's a really strong statement of faith. Now, the other thing it mentions is that then Ruth, it says at the end of chapter 2, stays until the end of the barley and the wheat harvest. Stays with Ruth till the end of the barley and the wheat harvest. Well, we'll get to that in a minute, okay? Let's go to chapter 3. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said unto her, my daughter, shall I not seek rest for thee, that it may be well with thee? What she's really saying, can I seek a husband for you? You need to get married because, you're left out here with nothing. And now is not Boaz of your kindred, with whose maidens thou went out? So she's thinking, matchmaker. Behold, he winnoweth barley tonight in the threshing floor. Now this is important. We saw that in the chapter 2, when Ruth got the barley, she winnowed it. He beat it. They have to get the husk off the barley to get just the kernels. So when they harvest, they immediately thresh it. Okay? This is important to know. Just think about this, because it's timing. This points to some things. So it helps us pinpoint timing. Okay? Behold, he winnoweth barley tonight in the threshing floor. Well, if they're threshing barley, it's not the wheat harvest yet. Barley is the first thing that comes. Wheat comes after. Barley is the first one that comes up. Wheat comes after. Okay? Just remember that. So Naomi tells Ruth, get all gussied up, wash thyself thereof, and anoint thee, and put thy raiment on thee, and get thee down to the floor, but make not thyself known unto the man until he has done eating and drinking. And it shall be when he lieth down that thou shalt mark the place where he shall lie, and thou shalt go in and uncover his feet and lay down, and he will tell thee what you should do. Well, there's also another problem here. No virtuous woman would do this. Okay? This was kind of, you shouldn't do this. An unmarried woman cannot be there with a man overnight. It just can't be. Right? She could be stoned for this. And when Boaz has eaten and drunk and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the pile of grain, and she came softly and uncovered his feet and laid down. And it came to pass at midnight that the man was afraid or startled, had a bad dream, and turned himself, and behold, a woman laid at his feet. And he said, who art thou? And she answered, I am Ruth, thy handmaiden. Spread therefore thy skirt over thy handmaiden, for thou art a near kinsman unto me. What she is saying is, marry me. When she says, spread your robe over me, she's asking him to marry her. Yeah, be my covering. This is a proposal. It's not something just an act. This is an act. She's requesting for him to marry her. And Boaz was attracted to her to begin with, because we saw in the last chapter that he asked his reapers to drop some extra grain, right, to allow her to pick up. Let her go wherever she wants to, So he's attracted to her, and so now he wears over in the night, and all of a sudden, there she is. And he said, praise God. He said, blessed be thou of the Lord, my daughter, for thou hast shown more kindness in the latter than at the beginning, inasmuch as thou followest not young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, fear not. I will do to thee all that thou requirest, for all the city of my people doth know thou art a virtuous woman. And now it is true that I am thy kinsman, albeit there is a kinsman nearer than I. Tarry this night, and it shall be morning, and if he will perform unto thee the part of a kinsman, well, let him do the kinsman part. But if he will not do the part of a kinsman to thee, then will I do the part of a kinsman to thee, as the Lord liveth. Lie down until the morning. And she lay at his feet until the morning, and she rose up before one could know another. And he said, let it not be known that a woman came unto the floor. In other words, he's protecting her. Don't let anybody know that he did this. And he said, bring the veil that thou hast brought upon thee, and hold it. And when she held it, he measured 6 measures of barley, and laid it on her, and she went to the city. And when she came to her mother-in-law, she said, who art thou, my daughter? She knew it was Ruth. What she's saying is, were you successful in the marriage proposal? That's really what this question is. And she told her all that the man had done to her. And she said, take these 6 measures of barley gave he me, for he said to me, go not empty unto thy mother-in-law. When he gave her the 6 measures of barley, it was a money changed hands. Okay? He's saying she's going to be married soon. Here's the down payment. Money changed hands. Yeah. The dowry contract, that goes with her. Then she said, sit still, my daughter, until thou know how the matter will fall, for the man will not be in rest until he finish the thing this day. In other words, she's saying he's hooked, and just stay cool until we see how this is going to play out. Which one of the kinsmen you're going to be married, right? Any questions about this? There's a lot of things here I'm trying to help explain. When you read about it, you don't get all these things. But when you read several different versions of the Bible, and you go and read another version, and I referenced a couple of other ones, New English Translation. I have another one that helps deal with tradition. And I looked up the part about the kinsman too. What are the role of the kinsman, and where is that? And it's in Leviticus. It points it out for widows and other married women who don't have children. The role of a kinsman. Okay, it's interesting to read all the things that God has for these people that I knew about it, but I didn't really know about it. Okay. Yeah, there's a movie out that's called Loving Leah, where a brother dies and his wife doesn't have a child, and his living brother then has a choice to make. He's Jewish. He has to go before this council and take off his shoe and throw it and denounce his brother ever existed, and another to get out of it, and he refuses. He can't do it. But anyways, it's a great movie, really good movie. But anyway, yes. No, it means that she uncovered. She was at his feet. That was a place for a wife. Okay, that's why she did it. She was acting as his wife. The question was, why did she go and uncover his feet? The answer is she was acting as that's where his wife would have slept. Now there's speculation. If you read in Hebrew mythology or other types of things, they believe that Boaz, because he was older, he probably had a wife, maybe even children. But the idea is that she had probably died. If Boaz was 60 to 80, then he may have died. So here he has empathy for her because she lost her husband, and he has lost his wife. And maybe even his sons too, if he had any children. That's speculation. Not written anywhere, but it's theorized by people that made the connection even stronger. Okay? Yes? That's a good question. Why the question is, why couldn't Ruth just go to Boaz in the daylight and make it known? I don't know. I can't answer that question. I think there was there were several things here. She couldn't be that way for whatever reason. There were rules that had to be followed, and I don't know what those rules were. And I'm assuming the reason she went in the night and in this way is because the rules forbade her from even talking to him unless he talked to her first, and especially since she was a foreign woman. It would also cause the people would see her going to him and saying, "Uh-oh, this isn't," and all of a sudden this starts, you know? So there's a lot of potential reasons why they didn't go to him in the daylight and confront him, okay? Don't know for sure, it doesn't say. But it's a good question. So let's go to the next chapter. Last chapter of Ruth. Then went Boaz up to the gate and sat there down, and there behold, the kinsman of whom Boaz spake came by, unto whom he said, Ho, such a one, turn aside, sit down here. And he turned aside and sat down. Then he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, Sit ye down here. And they sat down. And he said unto the kinsman, Naomi, that has come out of the country of Moab, selleth a parcel of land, which was our brother Elimelech's. And I thought to advise thee, saying, Buy it before the inhabitants here, and before these elders of my people. If thou wilt redeem it, redeem it. But if thou wilt not redeem it, then tell me, that I may know, for there is none to redeem it besides thee, and I am after thee. And he said, I will redeem it. So, I'll stop right there. All he's looking is, he's going to buy the land from Naomi, and all he's got to do is take care of Naomi. Okay? And she's going to have the money for the land. And she's an older woman. She's maybe 60 or whatever. If Ruth is in her close to 35, then she's 50 to 60. So there's no problem here. He's just taking care of an older woman. He doesn't have to marry her. Well, then Boaz drops the bomb on him. And then said Boaz, What day thou buyest the field of the hand of Naomi, thou must buy it also of Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance. Uh-oh. And the kinsman said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I mar mine own inheritance. Redeem thou my right to thyself, for I cannot redeem it. Now, he probably had a wife and children. And if he spends money on this, they won't inherit it now, because it'll go there. So he is endangering the inheritance of his family by doing this. Also, let alone having another woman in the household, another wife. There was nothing against having multiple wives back then. So he says, I can't do this. Now this was the manner in former time in Israel concerning redeeming, that concerning changing. For to confirm all things, a man took off his shoe and gave it to his neighbor, and this was a testimony in Israel. Therefore the kinsman said unto Boaz, Buy it for thee. So he drew off his shoe. And Boaz said unto the elders and unto all the people, You are witnesses this day that I have bought all that was Elimelech's, and all that was Kilion's and Mahlon's of the hand of Naomi. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, have I purchased to be my wife, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance, that the name of the dead be not cut off from among his brethren, and from the gate of his place. Ye are witnesses this day. And all the people that were in the gate and the elders said, We are witnesses. The Lord make a woman that is come unto thy house like Rachel and like Leah, which two did build the house of Israel, and do thou worthily in Ephrathah, and be famous in Bethlehem. And let the house be like the house of Pharez, whom Tamar bare unto Judah, of the seed which the Lord shall give thee of this young woman. So Boaz took Ruth, and she was his wife. And when he went unto her, the Lord gave her conception, and she bare a son. And the woman of the city said unto Naomi, Blessed be the Lord, which hath not left thee this day without a kinsman or a guardian, that his name shall be famous in Israel. And he shall be unto thee a restorer of thy life, a nourisher of thine old age, for thy daughter-in-law, which loved thee, which is better to thee than 7 sons, hath borne him. And Naomi took the child which laid it in her bosom, and became a nurse unto it. And the woman her neighbors gave it a name, saying, There is a son born unto Naomi, and they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David. Now these are the generations of Pharez. Pharez begat Hezron, Hezron begat Ram, Ram begat Amminadab, and Amminadab begat Nahshon, Nahshon begat Salmon, and Salmon begat Boaz, and Boaz begat Obed, and Obed begat Jesse, and Jesse begat David. Okay. So what have we learned? What are the lessons we learn out of this story? Okay, they consummate the marriage. The first kinsman rejects it for whatever reason, and the second one gets it. Now, my thinking. I step back. There are 2 sons, 2 wives, 2 kinsmen, 2 countries, 2 harvests. There's something going on here, okay, with all of these. So what Bible things do you think about when you think of twos? The first one is you think of Cain and Abel, good son, bad son. You think of Ishmael and Isaac. You think of Jacob and Esau, one of God, one not of God. Am I seeing a pattern here? Does that pattern fit into here? With the 2 sons, the 2 wives, one that went. Ruth ended up having 2 husbands. The first one died, and the second one. Okay? All in the line of Jesus. And why did God bring someone who was from Moab, who was probably of the line of Esau, into the line of Jesus? Well, it could be because Jesus was for everybody. But there's even a better thing. It's that if you look in genealogies, the guy that begot Boaz was called Salmon. And Salmon married a woman called Rahab. Rahab was the prostitute in Jericho that hid the spies and let them down by the wall, and God saved them. And she is mentioned numerous times in the Bible for her faith and her belief. And Ruth for her belief, and which she clung to here and wants this God. So what it's saying is, even though a lesson we can get out of this, it is by faith. You maybe need to be of the seed of Abraham, but by faith I am of the seed of Abraham. They access the covenant of God by faith. Okay? Do you see this? These are right here. Well, hopefully we've done that. But also, it didn't happen till they returned to the field of blessing. Okay? You may leave the field of blessing for a while, but it doesn't really happen until you return. To me, another thing, there's so many parallels out of this that you can get. Another thing is, even though Ruth was not a professional gleaner, it didn't happen for her into the field to reap. That is a lesson for you and I. Why are we sitting in here when we should be out gleaning? I may not be a professional evangelist, okay? But I won't catch the eye of the people that can bless me unless I'm out there. Would Ruth ever caught the eye of Boaz had she never gone into the field to labor? Is that a lesson for us? That if we don't go into the field to labor, how are we going to catch the eye of someone who can bless us? We want God to help us. If she stayed in the house with Naomi, would she have ever been blessed? Probably not. Yes, question. Yeah, the idea here is that it's a story of loyalty and of love and respect, because she did everything that her mother-in-law told her to do, and I guess the only way I see it is there was something in Naomi and in Elimelech and things that she saw that she wanted more than anything, and I would think that thing is love. Okay? How else would she make that statement? Your people will be my people, your God will be my God. Okay? Strong statement of faith. Yeah, she took a stand as right. Now, I'm going to go one step further here. We're going to take a little sidetrack. Yeah, we're getting there. It turns out barley and wheat are the two main grain harvests in Israel. And the feast of Israel are tied to harvest. Barley, being the first one, is tied to Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Wheat comes after it. It is tied to Pentecost and first fruits. Now, we're talking here about two harvests. Is there anything prophetic about two harvests, about the Lord coming to harvest what's coming? First rain, latter rain, first harvest, last harvest, second harvest? Jews and Gentiles is the way I read it. Okay? But notice the marriage of Ruth takes place probably right in here at the end of the barley harvest. Is this a timing of the marriage when we're going to see the marriage of the Lamb redeem us and restore us back to the land? Is this a prophetic type, these harvests, giving us a timing for the Lord's marriage to us? Look at this. We've been lost. We are the Gentiles referred to as we're the sick ones. We're of this guy, right? We've spread off. We were over here. We used to be in Judah, but now we're here, right? So this really speaks of Jews and Gentiles. And this speaks to a harvest of Jews and Gentiles. You get this? So, the Feast of Unleavened Bread this year is from the 13th to the 19th of April. That's when this is. And then Pentecost comes, 50 days later after that? Somewhere around the 1st of June, I believe. So sometime in here could be. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying, isn't it amazing? I don't know when the Lord's returning or when that marriage will happen. But I'm saying, with everything here and the whole line of things, do you see the prophetic thread running through this about how this could be more than just a story? It is a story, but the lessons here could also point to the redemption, our kinsman redeemer. Actually, when you stop and think about it, why is Jesus our Redeemer? Pardon? No, you're missing the point. Why is he? It's not because he saved us from the curse. It's not because he died for us. That's not why he is the Redeemer. He has to be a kinsman. He has to be related to us. How is Jesus related to us? No, he's not. He is our husband, but yes, but that's not. You're missing the point. He is okay. Let me give you back up and give you another picture. Who is the first Redeemer? If Jesus is related to Boaz, the second Redeemer, who is the first one who failed? Adam. Was Adam a son of God? Jesus is the only begotten Son of God, meaning the only birth, but Adam was created, he was formed. Son of God, but he failed in his portion to be able to redeem us. But Jesus is the brother of Adam. He is the second Adam, right? Doesn't it say that? So he is, if everything fell by Adam, then Jesus, because he is the second Adam, became our kinsman redeemer. He has the opportunity and the means. The price he paid was his death on the cross to redeem us back. And by his blood we are redeemed. But it gave him the right because he is related. Yes, question. I'm not following you at all. You could argue that. Okay? I don't interpret Romans to be that way. Okay? I don't interpret that in Scripture to mean that Jesus played both roles, that the first Redeemer and the second. I don't apply it. I don't see it that way. Okay? But that's a good point, and it could mean that. I don't know. Well, that's the way you read it. It could be. I can interpret it a number of different ways. Anyways, I like this good kind of discussion. I want you to think about what's happening. Okay? I want you to think about the possibility. You see, there's a lot more in this scripture than you originally thought was in Ruth. You have to look things up. You have to take every little thing and look at the timing of things, looking at the countries and what's involved in these stories. Because there's so much more involved in there when you look at the geography and location have a lot to do. The names of places when you study the Bible are extremely important. They tell you a lot about what's going on and what they mean. Yes, question. Well, you have to remember Boaz was 70 to 80. So his reproductive years were probably long gone. So also, when you stop and think about it, the older you get, the more prone to problems you get on a conception, right? So to be in the lineage of David, it needed God to be able to bring this baby forth in health and to be able to then become the grandfather of David. No. Yes, I believe that's true. The Lord did give her conception. Yeah, like Abraham and Sarah. This was a miracle that happened here. Other things. You see these little things. Yes, question. No, it's honorable because that was referring back to how the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Israel, got built. Yes. No, that's different. That Tamar wasn't the prostitute. No. Rahab was the prostitute. Yes. Well, yeah. She faked being a prostitute because he wouldn't give her what she was supposed to have. And then she asked for his ring because he didn't have money to pay her. And then she was gone. And he said, when she turned up pregnant, he said, we'll kill the guy that did this. And who did it, and she showed him the ring, and said, oops. Should it be a disgrace? It's a fact that it happened. Okay. She was righteous because he refused her the law. He refused to perform the point of the law. And he was righteous to do what she did. All these people ended up in the Rahab ends up in the lineage of Jesus. Do you see this? So the question is, if Ruth, who lives in a foreign country, doesn't know God, can end up in the lineage of Jesus, if Rahab, who's a prostitute, who's basically living there, turning tricks, if she can become in the lineage of Jesus, is there hope for you? Okay? Is there hope for you? And it has to do by faith and by opportunity and working in the field, being out there, doing the things that God says to do. Let your light shine, right? That's what this is about. Now, there's a whole lot more we could go into, but it's getting late. And I don't want this to turn into a 20-hour Bible study. I'm here to show you what I do when I try and read and study the Bible. I want you to learn to get more. It's up to you to dig it. It's up to you to think about it. And there are lots of possibilities. And as Darren pointed out, you should always check other scriptures before you go off on a theory. Yes? Yeah. Oh, it's an app called My Sword. MYSWORD. And you can download about 10 different versions of the Bible, and the King James has links to the Strong's Concordance, so you get Hebrew and Greek and all kinds of other reference books there. It's free of charge, and I use it almost extensively, exclusively. It gives me everything I need. I have other books I use when I really get stuck, but that's for 90%. I get it out of this. That's a good point. Michael just said in Noah Webster's 1827 dictionary, because it'll help you understand the King's English at that time and what these things mean. Yeah. So, yes. All these tools you can use, but I want you to understand there's so much more that you can dig out yourself. You just have to think about it. You have to dig a little bit. You have to understand and dig. There's meaning behind these different things. Most people wouldn't think to link the barley and wheat harvest to the Feast of Israel. But if you study enough about the Feast of Israel, you'll know that they're all linked to the harvest. Okay? And it gives you more clarity that there's lots of things that I can get out of this. Yes. Right. Well, let's put it this way. If you're a new Christian, Good News for Modern Man, which is a really dumbed down version of the Bible, in my opinion, is okay if it gets you to read the Bible to where you understand. As long as you understand that this is really, you're missing 95% of what's there. This is just this high view. Okay? And if you want to go further, you've got to dig. That's all I can say. The problem with people that human nature is, once I get a certain version of the Bible, people stick with it. And they then, if they grew up with that version of the Bible, they will never leave it. And I've seen that happen time after time, because that's what I grew up with. I've memorized those Bible verses. I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. I can't leave it. Okay? That's the problem. That's the problem I have with it, that people won't leave their old version because they're too comfortable. I'm going to erase this now, so I will tell you. Let's go darker. If this is me, and this is truth, if I read and search after this, I will get the revelation of this truth based on my perspective. I will never get another revelation unless I change my perspective. There is an infinite number of revelations around this truth. There is no one interpretation of the Bible. There is no one thing. It is all of these things. An infinite number of revelations. If I am unwilling to change, I will never get another revelation than one I got. I don't care how much you dig, won't do it. If, however, I change, and now I'm over here, I now can view another revelation. I'm now open to it. If I seek, I can see it in a different light. Because I've changed. Doesn't mean this one is wrong. It's sort of like saying I read a scripture and then I have an aha moment. And I understand. And then 5 years later, I'm reading the same scripture and I have another aha moment. Does that mean the first aha was bad? No, it just means, what it really means is I changed my perspective. I've changed. I'm not in the same person I was. I'm not in the same position. And as I change, I'm available to more revelation. So my job as a Christian is to change. If you stay the same, you'll never get another revelation. The whole thing is to move from glory to glory, from revelation to revelation. It means that you're changing. I'm becoming more in the image of Christ. The more I become in the image of Christ, the more I change. The more I change, the more I get it. And once I start, I can really, the problem being up here is not only that, but there's a whole bunch of stuff. See, when I'm in this position, it tends to chain me here. So there's a leg iron around me that keeps me here. And people down here, if I'm here, will say, you've left the faith. Right? You can't be up there. That's not God. Because this is God. Only this is God. And this never changes. God and the truth never change. But my understanding of it, my ability to comprehend it, changes as I grow and change. So the whole point is the transformation of our mind requires me to change. It also means I need to change the version of the Bible I read. It needs to change. I need to open up more and go to other things. And don't be tied to the past. That is the biggest problem that most people have with Bible study. Well, I've had this Bible study and been there for 5 years, and this means this means this, and this means this. I'm sorry if that's the way you read things. You will never grow because you've already decided what everything means, and therefore you're not open to revelation. All learning stops when you say, I got it. That's really what happened. The whole point is, I got what I got for today. Tomorrow's a new day. There's new manna for me tomorrow. But part of it is I've got to go get it, which I've got to change. You see my point? Yes, question. Right, 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 right. Yeah, and if this isn't a point, the idea is if this is an elephant and you're looking at the back of an elephant and that's all you know, if someone showed a picture of the front of the elephant, that's not an elephant, right? It doesn't look like that. My elephant stinks. That one doesn't. Okay, so that's the whole issue. Well, any more last questions? Father, I thank you for this time. I thank you for your understanding and blessing. I pray that you would open up our hearts and mind to your word. Give us possibilities, Lord, but help us not to go astray. Know that your word never contradicts your word. Help us to really verify everything in your scripture. Help us to go beyond where we are. Help us to grow. Help us to change. Help us to seek out your face with diligence and awe and wonder. Help us to fear you, God. Help us to know there are consequences to sin. Help us to know that your desire is that none should perish, but all should come to the knowledge of Christ. Father, I pray it in Jesus'